Okay, so in today's lecture, we'll be doing budding, and after budding, we'll be going for regeneration, fragmentation. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about budding. Okay, so you might have heard of budding earlier also in class 10th somewhere in little detail. So what happens here is it is again a type of asexual reproduction. We all are aware about it. Asexual reproduction. Now, what happens is in this case, one or more outgrowths can occur. One or more unicellular or multicellular outgrowths can occur. Outgrowths can occur, which are known by the name as buds, right? And these buds can form inside the body or outside the body. You might be knowing only outside the body or only, but inside the body also it can form. It can form inside the body or it can form outside the body. Both the cases are true. So we are aware of the outside growth, like this is an outside bud. It will keep on growing and it will ultimately become big and detach. This is outside bud, but inside growth is also possible. Okay. What happens is we have the example of sponges, right? If you talk about example, we have sponges, we have the hydra, right? So we also have the annelids. Some of the annelids can also bud off. Okay. So if you talk about the classical example of hydra, so in hydra, what happens? Hydra and also one more I'll add the sponge known as Sypha. Okay. SCYPHA, Sypha. The budding here occurs outside the body, means it is a type 1 budding. So budding can be of two types. Here it is outside the body, it is known as exogenous budding. Very, very important. You can write down exogenous budding. So budding is of two types, exogenous and endogenous. Exo means outside, endo means inside. So exo means since it is outside, the bud will be formed on the outer surface of parental body. Okay. So the bud will be formed on the outer surface of parental body. That is where bud will be formed. Okay. This is known as exogenous budding. Okay. But we have something known as endogenous budding as well. Type 2. Endogenous budding. This you might not have heard of. Here, bud forms inside the body and is then released. How I'll tell you. The example for endogenous budding is spongilla. Endogenous budding. Okay. So, freshwater sponge known as spongilla, not Sypha. Here we talk about spongilla. That is the example. Okay. So, what happens is we have a number of buds inside the body, and the buds which are present inside the body are known by a special name, gemmules. Know it for your competition exams. They are known as gemmules. Okay, these are the buds only, but present inside the body, so they are known as gemmules. Okay, now each gemmule is a mass of undifferentiated cells. Means suppose this is a gemmule, this will have multiple cells. Each cell is known as archaeocytes. Archaeocytes. So if you read reference books, in some books you will be finding that archaeocytes are such undifferentiated cells that they are known as totipotent in nature. You can note it down. Totipotent in nature means they can give rise to any part of the body. Okay, they are stem cell in nature, right? Stem cell are pluripotent. In humans, there are two things: pluripotent and totipotent. Pluripotent means you can even give rise to umbilical cord, but sorry, totipotent means you can even give rise to umbilical cord and the entire body. Okay, but pluripotent means you cannot give rise to umbilical cord but entire body. You can give rise to the entire body cells. Totipotent is, you can say, a greater characteristic than, you can say, pluripotent. So it can give rise to the entire body part, right? So it is totipotent in nature, means there is a thing known as stemness. Stemness means stem cell. So that each and every organ can differentiate and form from these archaeocytes. Okay, so always know. So these gemmules are thrown out, and when it gets the conducive environment, favorable conditions, what happens is the archaeocytes, they will come out of the gemmules. The gemmules will burst and archaeocytes will come out. Archaeocytes will come out of the gemmule and they will make a new sponge. Okay, when only during favorable conditions, otherwise they'll stay inside the gemmule only. Okay, so that is how things are done. Here gemmules are thrown out, okay, from the inside of the body, not outside, from the inside of the body. Is it clear, everyone? What is budding? Oh,
Yes.
oh, good.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about fragmentation. So fragmentation is what? Again, it is a type of asexual reproduction. We know that, in which asexual reproduction, that is common thing here. We're talking about types of asexual. But here, the parental body would break down. Parental body would disintegrate into two or more fragments. It break down into two or more fragments. It could be via wave action. Okay, some water waves come in, they causes a huge splash. Okay, wave action on the sponge. Okay, example could be sponges. It could break apart. Okay, now each body fragment will develop into an organism. Then each body fragment will develop into an organism or into a new organism. Suppose I chop off your hand, the hand becomes the entire organism. This fragmentation is also seen in the larger eukaryotes like zebrafish. Have you heard of it? Zebrafish, anyone? If you see zebrafish,
Yes, sir.
Look at Google to see zebrafish. It is a phenomenal, you can say, higher eukaryote. Nowadays, scientists are studying it, you can say, with extreme lab work, right? Why they are studying it extensively? Because zebrafish has got genes which match humans, but they have got extreme control over their gene expression. You know, if zebrafish gets a heart attack, myocardial infarction, not a single damage happens to its heart. Why? See, you have a heart here, you have the coronary artery this side, it could be the LAD artery, left anterior descending artery, you could have an occlusion here, then hypoxia, heart attack. Some of the cells died, then the blood flow, or you can say perfusion, was restored later on, stent placement, angioplasty was done, or even cardio, or you can say coronary artery bypass graft, or simply bypass. Surgery is done. But the thing is, due to hypoxia, suppose the MI or myocardial infarction slash heart attack lasted for 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, some 1 billion or 500 million cells died, okay, because of lack of oxygen. Now those cells cannot be replaced. Those cells will be replaced by collagen. They will be replaced by Mr. Collagen, not anything else. So that is a scar tissue. Okay, the fibroblasts will come in and they will secrete collagen. Collagen would just, in a simple way, act like a band-aid. It would fill up that dead area, but that scar tissue in the heart, this is the entire heart, suppose this is scar tissue, this is made up of collagen secreted by the fibroblast cells or fibroblasts, connective tissue cells. These collagen cells, can this part of the heart beat? No, this is electrically unexcitable. Unexcitable. Okay, these cells will not have specific electrical conductivity. Okay, always know these cells will not have specific electrical conductivity. So this part of the heart cannot beat. So the heart has got weakened, right? That is the state. So we cannot go for that part of the heart, right? So that it can beat. Always know that. So we cannot have that at all. Once we cannot have that, we have something known as heart damage, or it can lead to congestive heart failure later on, that the muscle is getting weakened and weakened, now heart cannot pump, we require ultimately heart transplantation. Okay, but in zebrafish what happens if they get a heart attack? This will happen in their heart also, but their cardiomyocytes can come out of the G0 phase of the cell cycle. Ours is arrested, so myocytes cannot divide the cardiac muscle cells. Their cardiac muscle cells will come out and will fill this area and then stop division. Just think. Okay, automatically it heals its own heart. Okay, so there are a lot of researches. Yesterday I was reading a paper. The scientists have found a gene known as KLF1. KLF1. This gene is also present in human beings, but ours is completely off. Zebrafish can switch on this gene after any myocardial infarction. Think how beautiful it is. When myocardial infarction happens, the gene will switch on, cardiomyocyte will form. After that, it will again be switched off. We don't have that capability. Same way, if you cut zebrafish off, it can regenerate on its own as well. So those things can happen in zebrafishes. Okay, top class. So we can do it if we want. If the scientists, we have to get the work done in the lab. Things are going. So maybe after 10-20 years, heart attack won't kill the patient. Okay. Now I'll just tell you something about zoospores and conidia. Very, very important. Zoospores versus conidia. You can just write down members of fungi and algae. Okay, members of fungi and algae. They produce special asexual reproductive structures. You can say special asexual reproductive structures. That is known as zoospore. Okay. Now, when in aquatic medium, very, very important, not in the terrestrial medium, the fungi and algae which stay in the aquatic medium, in the aquatic medium. What is their characteristic? Are they motile, non-motile? So these are motile flagellated. Okay. They are motile as well, flagellated as well, and they have naked protoplasm, means no proper cell wall. They have the cell membrane. In plant, cell membrane and its inner structure is known as protoplast. Cell wall and the cell membrane combined are known as the entire cell. So naked protoplast. The cell wall will not be there. Naked protoplast. Now, you might have heard of Chlamydomonas and all. So they contain specific zoospores. Chlamydomonas. If we talk about conidia, okay, so these are again produced by fungi and algae, okay, but what happens is they are nothing but exogenous constriction, means outer constriction or contraction. Outer constriction of what? Which occur at the tip of I'll just show you the image as well. Just hold on, just write down first. At the tip of the hyphae, okay, which are present in the fungi, tip of the hyphae. Okay, these are non-motile. Always know these are unicellular, could be multicellular, but branched, unbranched, could be many things. Could be branched, could be unbranched. Okay, those things could be there, but the thing is they are non-motile. Always. Very few cases they could be motile, but mostly they are non-motile. Okay, and again they could germinate and produce later on zoospore, but that is not in your course right now. Okay, I'll just show you what is called conidia and zoospores. I'll just show it to you. Conidia. See, I'll just show it to you. See this image. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
See, this is the zoospores of Chlamydomonas. Okay, nucleus, you have the flagella to flagella. By this flagella, they can move. This is an extension of the fungal hyphae. You have this conidiophore, and then you have multiple conidia. See, they are constriction of the hyphae. Okay, they are constriction at the outer exogenous part, they are getting constricted and forming multiple conidia. You can see here. Okay, all these are reproductive organs only. Okay, for asexual reproduction. This is not a sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction types in are algae and fungi. Okay, if you see if you see the entire fungal structure, I show you fungal hyphae here, hyphae and mycelium. Okay. So it looks like this. Mycelium. And hyphae together. See, they look like this. This is the entire mycelium and one structure. Each structure is known as hypha. And they will be known as hyphae if it is plural, and mycelia if it is again plural. Okay, this is how the fungi are produced mostly. Okay, you can see this diagram as well. Okay, you see this is mycelium, and these one are hyphae, which are originating out of it. Multiple. This entire thing is known as mycelium. Okay, so this is how the difference between mycelium and hyphae is. Okay, hyphae and hypha are singular and plural, and mycelium and mycelia are again singular and plural. So now come to the vegetative propagation or vegetative reproduction. You can say vegetative propagation as well. Okay. So in case of vegetative propagation, what happens? We go for it in plants only. So vegetative propagation, if we talk about, vegetative propagation or reproduction, what happens here is it is the process of multiplication. The process of multiplication. Okay, in which what happens? A portion or fragment of the plant body, always remember, in which a portion or fragment, okay, you generally call it a callus, a fragment of plant body, it functions as a specific growing structure known as propagule. It functions as a structure which can grow into the complete plant. Means it functions as a propagule. Propagule is something which can grow and propagate. Right? From the word propagate, propagule, and develops into a new individual. Into a new individual. That is what happens in case of vegetative propagation. Okay. So the propagule could be anything, could be the leaf, could be the stem, could be the part of the root. Okay. So multiple things could act as a propagule. Understood the real concept? Any part of the plant that we have seen in the plant also, that you cut a stem and put, it grows. Okay, you take the root off and you put, it grows. Right? You do a lot of things like this in the garden and all. That is nothing but vegetative propagation only. Okay, so we have the natural method, like we use the roots, the stems and leaves, okay, which bear the buds or adventitious buds, and they form the new plants like sweet potato and all. That is the natural method. We just prick the root and all, and we put it somewhere else or part of the stem. That is natural vegetative propagation. Okay, natural vegetative propagation. We can do it naturally, okay, in case of sweet potato and all. But if you want to do it by roots, okay, I'll give you some examples. If you want to go for natural by roots, okay, just take the roots as a propagule, okay. So we can do it with guava, we can do it with, you can say, the sesame plant, okay. So we can do that. So you can go for tuberous adventitious roots, tuberous adventitious roots. You can go for guava. Simply, we all have eaten guava, so it's quite easy. We can do it with sweet potato as well. Okay, we can do it with sweet potato as well. Not the potato, but the sweet potato. Okay, there's a difference. Now, if we go for, you can say, vegetative propagation via stem. Okay, so you can see the branched rhizomes. They can also go, or you can say the garlic, the onion, the lily. Okay, they can also go for stem way. Okay, so those things can happen. Okay, so then we have something known as under stem. We have something known as stem tuber. If you want to know, there are structures known as stem tuber. So they are found in potato and artichoke. Okay. Potato and artichoke. So what happens is the tuber of potato is a swollen apical part, right? Which is present in the where? In the stem branch, and the stem branch is underground, okay? And bears a lot of nodes like this, like this, like this, like this. So these are the nodes, okay? These are the specific nodes. Node 1, node 2, node 3. This is the entire tuber. Okay, it is present underground. Okay, always know it is present underground. And if you talk about runner, runner is the opposite of stem tuber. If you talk about runner, okay, so runner means they are lawn grass. They could be, you can say, weak stem. Okay, very very weak stem, kind of like from lawn grass only. Okay, what happens is when they touch the ground, it gives out adventitious roots at their nodes. Okay, and when older plant of the plant would die, what would happen is the branch would separate from the parent plant and form independent plant because it has touched. And when this plant dies, no problem, if it just touch the ground, it will start to go from that portion again. Okay, doesn't matter if the originated or the origination causing plant has died or not. That is the runner. It runs away, you can say. It would run away. Same way, for leaves, you can also cause, you can say, bryophyllum and all you can do for, but those are not asked. So these are the examples of natural vegetative propagation. Okay. Now we come to artificial ones. Now artificial ones, we can go with cutting, layering, grafting. Okay, artificial. You might have heard this in class 10th in little bit. Artificial vegetative propagation. Number one, we have cutting. In cutting, what we do is, it is nothing but a cut off, or you can say separated or segregated portion of leaf, stem, or root. Stem, leaf, or root. Cut means you just cut. So separated part of leaf, stem, or root. Now, what happens is it can be applied to roses, to, you can say, grapes, to cocoa. Okay, roses, grapes, to cocoa, to sugarcane, right? multiple things it can be related to. What happens is, you might have done this also. The cut part of the leaf, stem, or root is put into the soil. Okay, the cut part, the part which has been cut, is put into the soil. Now what we'll do is, a very careful measure has to be done or taken so that the nodes which were at the lower end, they are put in the soil, not the other way around. Suppose this is a node. Okay, so you are putting this in the soil, not like this. Suppose you are not doing it the opposite way. Okay, we put the node, it is not like this. It should be number one, because the node should be put into the soil. That is the only main care we have to take care, because nodes will give off adventitious roots. And then what you can do, you can add various types of auxin, like indole acetic acid, indole butyric acid. This was asked in your 11th exam also. Then NAA, naphthalene acetic acid. Okay, we can all do that. Types of auxin. Okay. Synthetic auxins, naphthalene acetic acid for root growth. Okay, and then the plant may commence to grow. Okay, so that is all about our cutting. Okay, so is it clear, cutting? Any doubt in this one? Okay.
No, sir.
Oh, so we'll come to then layering. Grafting we'll do tomorrow and finish off this chapter. From day after tomorrow, we'll start chapter 2. Okay. So layering means we choose the stem mostly, and we take the stem. Suppose this is the plant, this is the stem. We take the stem and we put it in the soil like this. Just we pull and put in the soil and layer the top of the soil on top of that stem. Okay, that is what we do mostly. So in this method, what is done is, the branch of a stem is chosen for propagation. Okay, so that branch of a stem is known as a layer. That is known as a layer. So it remains attached to parent. Okay, it remains, see, I have not broken the connection. It remains attached to the parent. Attached to the parent till it has produced adventitious roots. That is the main thing. Means till this has produced adventitious roots down under. Okay, till it has produced adventitious roots. Okay, so that is the main thing about layering. Okay, always know that. We don't have to become a farmer here, but that is how layering works. Okay, so is it clear about layering? Everything?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anuj, Anurag, is it clear? Supriya, Prakriti? Okay, okay. Prakriti, any doubt? Or anyone else, any doubt? Any questions?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Then so tomorrow we'll be completing this chapter. Okay. So after that, the serious chapters will begin from chapter 2. This was an introductory chapter. In chapter 2, we'll be having very, very serious and complicated topics. Okay. So keep the attendance full. Okay. Because you need to score good marks this time in board examination. Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.